All right, everyone, welcome back. We've got another deep dive ready for you, and this one's going to be about copper IUDs. So if you've been following along with us, sometimes we pick these deep dives out of the blue, and sometimes they're requested. And this one, we got a lot of requests to kind of dive into the science of copper IUDs.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're thinking about getting one, or maybe you already have one, you're just curious about how it all works, this one's for you.
Absolutely.
I've got some really cool research on how they work. So yeah, let's get right to it. I'm excited to unpack this with you.
Sounds good.
So,
When we're looking at a copper IUD, the main goal of a copper IUD, like any contraceptive, is to prevent pregnancy.
yeah.
It's not going to stop ovulation like some other methods do.
Okay.
But one of the things that's, I think, really interesting is, it has a less than 1% failure rate.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredibly effective. It's effective immediately, and it's non-hormonal.
That's pretty powerful. I mean, less than 1%. That's incredible.
It is.
But how does it actually do that? I mean, how is it so effective?
Yeah.
The research mentions that it creates this toxic environment for sperm.
Right.
Could you break that down for us? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, so the copper IUD, you can think of it as like it releases these copper ions.
Okay.
And these copper ions are like little warriors, and they basically, they're going to attack the sperm on a couple different fronts.
Okay.
So one, they're going to target the sperm's flagella, which is like the tail, the whip-like tail that helps the sperm swim.
Right.
So the copper ions, they basically disrupt the flagella and essentially paralyze the sperm.
So they can't swim anymore.
No swimming. No swimming for the sperm, right? And that's called hindering motility, the ability to swim.
Got it. So it's like taking out its motor.
Exactly. And then the second front that it attacks on
Right.
is what's called viability, so the sperm's viability.
So like their ability to even survive.
Exactly, their ability to survive.
Okay.
So the copper is really interfering with their ability to survive as well.
So it's like a double whammy.
It's a double whammy, yeah, you got it.
Wow. And the research also mentions that the copper changes the cervical mucus.
Right.
Like, how does that factor into all of this?
So the copper basically makes the cervical mucus thicker and more acidic.
Okay.
And you can kind of think of it as like it becomes, it's like a hostile maze for the sperm.
Like they can't get through it.
They can't get through it.
Wow. So this copper IUD is really like setting up this obstacle course for the sperm.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Now, the research also talks about this inflammatory response. Does that mean it's painful?
That's a good question. But in this case, the inflammation is actually helpful, so it's localized and it's beneficial.
Okay.
So what happens is the copper IUD triggers the specific immune response in the uterus,
Okay.
and it's going to attract white blood cells and all these other defensive substances.
Interesting.
And those are going to target sperm and eggs, which is going to further reduce the chance of pregnancy.
Oh, wow. So I didn't realize it targeted the eggs too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And here's where I think things get really mind-boggling. This implantation prevention. Can you walk us through that?
Absolutely. So first of all, when we talk about implantation, we're talking about when a fertilized egg attaches to the uterine lining.
Right.
So even if a sperm manages to overcome all these hurdles we've talked about
Yeah.
and actually fertilizes an egg, the copper IUD can still step in.
Okay.
So it actually alters the uterine lining, making it less hospitable for that fertilized egg to implant.
So even if it gets that far, it's still not done.
It's not done yet.
Wow. So it's not just one thing. It's working on all these different levels to prevent pregnancy.
Right.
It really is amazing. I mean, just to think how much science is packed into this tiny little device.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so effective, that multi-layered approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It really makes you think. So thanks for guiding us through this deep dive. It was really interesting.
My pleasure.
And it leaves me wondering, if copper is so effective at disrupting sperm, what other possibilities does that open up? Could it have implications for other aspects of reproductive health or even beyond? Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for listening.